Alright everyone, it's time for the occult, video number 326. There is nothing more believable in modern religions than there is in ancient religions. Keep in mind that the intellectual and philosophical standards of each age change. People will always reinterpret and reinterpret and reinterpret spiritual systems, organized religions, cults, etc., according to what is considered true at the time. So when we look at the evolution of religion, we're looking a little bit, it's more like a coevolution. It's a coevolution between the spiritual system and the sort of civic and technological systems that exist. So when people believe in one spiritual premise, the religion is co-opted and co-evolves with that. Over time, at some point, that may change. We'll look at Christianity as an example in the slightly more modern sense. We're not talking about ancient, like Nicene Creed and the Gnostics or something. Let's look at fairly modern Christianity. Christians in the 17th, 18th centuries thought it's virtuous to go and kill the heretics. It's fine. Conquesting them is fine. It's good to go and civilize people by forcing them to worship our God. These are good things. These are virtuous. And if you kill in the name of your Lord, it's at least forgivable, generally speaking. It's all right to, we're good Catholics. We don't associate with those Protestants. Now, if you look at the same religion, it has evolved, of course, or devolved according to your premises over the last few hundred years. Now there's inter-Christian tolerance more, so the Pope will hang out with Protestants, doesn't have a problem with them, although he still clearly thinks that he's better. It gets along more with the Orthodoxy, but they've been doing that since the days of Vlad the Impaler and the Ottomans and stuff. So that was a political arrangement that just stuck around, and they figured it was better. We'll split up the world and we'll share the profits in the Vatican and the Russian Orthodox Church. It evolved over time. The religion itself, the canon, is the same. The way it's interpreted and practiced is totally different. The way that even a fundamentalist, very religious Christian today acts is totally different from the way that a religious or more secular or offshoot Christian 100 years ago would act. And that's basically because of culture, it's because of changes in technology and lifestyle, everything. The language changes. All of these things change. In this situation, we can imagine, the things that people within religions today believe in would have been heretical 100 years ago. That is, that over time, each specific, not necessarily generation, but epoch, period of time within religions and within cultures they're associated with, etc., changes them considerably. The way that Islamists practice today is not the same as they did back in the times of the height of the Ottoman Empire. The way in which Jews practice now is not the same as they practiced 1,000 years ago. The culture affects the practice, and the practice also, in turn, affects the culture. When we look at the fantastic tales of ancient religions, the Elysian fields, the dark, swampy dwellings of Hades, the gods up on Olympus, things like that, the Odin's wild hunt and things, we say, well, I mean, that's fantasy. It's not actually real. Most people don't believe in that literally. But in the same breath, they'll tell you they believe in angels and Satan and things that are equally fantastic. The difference is the amount of strangeness or fantastic sort of hyperbole or a historical content and influence from potentially other religions and cultures and times is exactly the same. If anything, over time, especially in the age of the internet, there's far more influence. The fact that we now have a fully cosmopolitan world throughout the entire West and even now in the developing world, like fucking 15 years ago, it was kind of hard to get viewed in India. Now it's like half the internet seems to speak Hindi. If you look at the situation, religion and spirituality are co-evolving with that technology. People are encountering one another, and many of these encounters aren't even friendly. That shapes the religion too. The general feeling of the lay people within a spiritual path, etc., etc., the way in which the higher-ups, the priesthood or whatever, interacts with other groups, usually for corporate purposes, it influences the religion and the way people think about things. Like, there are certain paranormal tropes that keep coming and going, like ghost hunting and stuff like that. I can look back at Victorian literature and say they're doing seances, they have magic crystals and all these other things, ectoplasm and pendulums and Ouija boards. They believed in it very literally. It sort of goes away, Atomic Era. It becomes less common. It becomes a joke. But now there's a revival of this sentiment. Oh, yeah, we got ghost boxes and EVP detectors and stuff like that. It's totally real. This quasi-spiritual facet, which is largely borrowed from ancient Greek stories, by the way, I'm editing one right now, a good analysis of ancient Greek and Roman ghost stories. Fascinating work. I can't wait to release it. That will probably be the 360th edition. Lining up a whole bunch to plow out of the way as quickly as possible, but whatever. And largely adapted from that. But those stories are variously regarded throughout time as literal, quasi-literal, that is, that the idea is adapted but it's changed over time, sort of like an Apollonius to Jesus transformation, ancient Greek daimon to modern-day conception of an evil spirit transformation, is relegated to the secular and analyzed scientifically, or is discredited entirely and poo-pooed away and considered nonsense. That happens over time. But there's nothing in any ancient religion that I can find, having studied as many of them as possible and as many interpretations of them as possible, including from primary sources, that's more or less fantastic than the kind of religiosity that people follow now. 100 years from now, let's say we have a nuclear war. World's population is 1/100th what it is now. And we go back to like Dark Ages population density. People are dealing with radiation sickness. They've lost the scientific knowledge to even know why they're getting sick. Infant mortality is higher. The average person has regressed to feudal peasantry. The way in which they practice any remnant religion, if they even retain one, considering the hopelessness there, that might cause both hyper-religiosity and hyper-secularity. Those people will not practice Christianity the way their great-grandparents did before the war. They won't practice Islam the same way. They won't practice Hinduism the same way. It'll be totally different. If they were encountering our opinions now on religion, they would consider them bizarre and heretical, including more secular opinions. Some god might be worshipped, and they'd say, "Oh, we hear about this group of people. They were called the atheists back, before God, killed everyone." And in fire, they had these people that didn't believe in the gods. Can you imagine that? They'll have stand-up comedy and satires about it, probably. That's the way that, and that reality to them will be just as real. Whereas when you're talking about very subjective things like spirituality, who's to say they wouldn't be right? Maybe Adam really is the one source of power in all the universe, and everyone's a heretic who doesn't play Fallout 4 and take it as semi-canonical for real life. Maybe it's true. Maybe Nurgle really is out there in the universe slowly infecting everything, and he's coming towards our galaxy, and we're going to have lead pox and plague, and our feet will be falling off, and we'll be happy because we'll be blessed by Papa Nurgle. How do I know that that's not the case? Even if it was meant to be fiction, you could have a lucky guess. Wouldn't that be very interesting? That's about all. Peace out.